Very nice. Let's get right into it. A lot of important topics. Mike, we're going to start with you. You have strong feelings about how the debt of reparations should be paid. You feel like it should be land.
Yeah.
Why do you feel like that's the answer?
I think it's a culmination of things, but I think that if you're not asking for land as a big part of that, that maybe you're off course. If Bill Gates, who makes all his money off microchips and computers, is now trying to be the largest landowner in the United States, you know, if you want a good sense of where to find some food, follow a hungry dog. You know, if Gates want land, why aren't we 54% of all African Americans live in the South? We know that we were enslaved here. We know we built the economy of the South. We know we were the cornerstone of the South, said by Alexander Stephens, the vice president of the Confederacy, who Stevens County is named for, said the cornerstone of the Confederacy is slavery. So since the cornerstone of building this took us working for free, we deserve something. And what we deserve is land, and we deserve land grants like Dr. King asked for. We deserve to have government contracts that are 100 years in perpetuity for that land. So if corn needs to be grown, we should be granted the land. We should be given the contracts to grow the corn. Why does that work? Because it keeps a dollar cycling, not only in our community, but the greater community. I would like to walk out of this, because I know you don't solve all the problems here, but I'd like to walk out knowing that if we don't deserve anything else, we deserve land, we deserve money, we deserve education. And the only other thing is, there has been, and I gotta credit Yvette Cardinal for saying this, her and Antonio Moore, that without something in terms of perpetuity, without some monies, without some political policy, without some change, then it all equals nothing. So we need to push the line locally, like what's happening in California, because once one state breaks their balls, makes them break the bank, then it's easier to repeat. But if you in Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, the Carolinas, Louisiana, Texas, you deserve your fair share of land.
What about everybody else? Y'all can give it up for that, of course. Yeah. What about everyone else? Are there any other thoughts, checks, land grants, free education? What is everybody else? What's in your minds about how reparations should be meted out?
Land is one aspect of it, in respect to my brother Mike. The thing is, we don't just want land because they'll do what they're doing in Mississippi. There's a bunch of people who live in a city, but then they'll taint the water. They will do certain things like they do on certain Indian reservations. They will pollute the creeks, things like that. So land is one option, but we need cash payments. And when we get the cash, we can buy whatever land we need.
I'll add, as an international human rights scholar, there's a legal definition for what reparations is. So under international law, reparations comes in 5 forms. So compensation or cash must be included because that's one of the forms of reparations under international law. But there's also restitution, and that accounts for stolen land, stolen labor, stolen property, real or intellectual. So that's relevant in the entertainment space in terms of the cultural contributions of African Americans, right? The other form of reparations under international law is rehabilitation. So that can look like free medical care from birth to death, free education, free legal and trauma services. Then there's satisfaction, which accounts for more symbolic forms of reparations, like a formal apology, the taking down of Confederate monuments, and the erecting of statues that honor our ancestors, for instance. And then the last, or the 5th form of reparations under international law is guarantees of non-repetition. So that gets at more structural and institutional policy change. So my personal opinion is that you cannot call a reparations package reparations unless it includes all 5 of those forms. So it has to include cash, it has to include a check, it has to include restitution, it has to include rehabilitation, it has to include satisfaction, and it has to include guarantees of non-repetition.
So, wow, amazing, yeah. So Erika, you took on the subject of reparations in a documentary. It's called The Big Payback.
Yes. Hello.
Piggybacking off something that Kamilah said, the emotional part of this, the apology, America coming to face its demons, America like really litigating what happened in the past. How big of a part of reparations is that for you? Like the country coming to terms with what slavery was and what the legacy of slavery has been for hundreds of years.
Say the middle part of that, please. I'm losing
Like
it.
I'm saying, how important is America coming to terms with the legacy of slavery as part of the reparations package that we might be talking about? How big of a part of that is for you?
I believe that America is held back karmically by its debt. Not only the moral debt, but the actual debt. How important is it? I don't believe that America can be America without having to deal and play restitution to the people that is done wrong. We talk about the Native Americans, and we talked about how important it was that they got restitution and reparations and some kind of acknowledgement for the killing and the murder and the land grab and the thievery. But when it comes to African Americans, we get amnesia, white amnesia. No, just get over it, move on. Nobody who's living did that then. And I said, but that debt is living in the karmic value of America. So I actually believe that America is doomed if it does not pay it. I believe that it can't go on if it doesn't do restitution, because that right there will be, as James Baldwin says, will wreck it. So I think it's more than anything, America needs to come to terms with it. Otherwise, America isn't America.
Rizza, yeah, give it up. Rizza, I've heard you talk in the past a lot about, I guess, what America's conscience is as it relates to black people. Do you echo her sentiments? Do you feel like not just the financial part of this should be considered, but also what the country owes black people emotionally and spiritually?
Well, I'll say this. When it comes to the Asian community, no one says anything about that. No one has amnesia. When it comes to the Jewish community, no one has amnesia. When it comes to Chinese, when it comes to the LGBT, no one has amnesia. All different groups and organizations are able to have access to the wealth, to land, etc. But when it comes to black people, well, we don't have enough money. They didn't say that to the Ukraine. They don't say that to any other country who they send money to the tunes of millions, hundreds of millions, and even billions on a regular. America's in debt to the tune of over $20 trillion. Absolutely. We'll print some more, because you print it for everybody else. And there are other ways to make sure we get that. So yes, I echo our sister's sentiment, but not only the financial. Yes, there needs to be an open apology, like Bill Clinton apologized and said we will never experiment on people like we did with Tuskegee. America needs to resoundingly, both sides, Democrats, Republicans, the House and the Senate, need to come out and officially acknowledge every single thing that they have done up to the very point to what they are continuing to do right now, from the prison industrial complex to the experimentation with these poisonous shots. I'm going to say it, because now that has to be added to reparations as well. They experimented on over 200 million people in America, my brother. That has to be added to the reparations. You're damn right we're going to talk about it. So I'll leave it at that point.
All right. So the next question is a slightly controversial one. And this is for anybody who would like to answer. Recently, there's been a talking point that's been floated around in a lot of intellectual circles that it's not just America that should pay reparations. That this goes back to actually some African nations that might have participated in the slave trade. And I've heard people say on various platforms that you go back to the source of slavery or the source of the enslavement itself, and there are some people on the continent that might also bear responsibility for that. I was wondering what anybody on the panel might think about that idea.
We're seeing a narrative now where the white supremacists are deflecting away from themselves, saying, well, we aren't the only ones who owe you. The Africans, they enslave you too. The thing is, those African nations don't exist no more. The kingdom of Dahomey doesn't exist no more. We see the new movie, The Woman King, out, which is a horrible rendition of what happened, but that kingdom doesn't exist. They were colonized, and the wealth that they accrued, that was absorbed by the white supremacists in Britain and the white supremacists over here. Even these so-called Africans who enslaved us, they got re-enslaved themselves, and many of them were brought over too. So not only does the white supremacists owe us, you owe them Africans too. So you owe all of us the reparations check who came over here and became foundational black Americans.
Okay, Tariq, I'll come right back to you. Who, because you use the term foundational black Americans, who, in your opinion, is owed reparations? Because I look out in the audience, black is an all-encompassing term when it comes to America.
Yes.
when the money is meted out or the land or whatever it is that we're talking about, who gets it?
The people who are going to get reparations for slavery are the people who are descended from slaves. This is not reparations for racism. That's another claim, all right? A lot of people try to muddy the water. If we try to do reparations for racism, that's going to include Latinos, that's going to include some white people. They can say that they've experienced racism, so that brings in a whole crop of people, and then that muddies the waters. We're talking about reparations for people who built the country, and the descendants of the people who built the country. The descendants of slaves who are foundational Black Americans specifically should get reparations, and no other group.
Tez? I'm asking if you have anything to add to that. What do you think about?
No, I think Tariq said it best. I don't think there's really anything to add to. When we talk about a legal claim, who actually has that claim? If somebody in here were to slip on the floor and break their neck, there's only one person they're going to sue. It's going to be REVOLT. There's no confusion on, well, I slipped and the other person next to me slipped or they could have slipped. When you talk about a legal claim, and I can throw that back to you, but when you talk about a legal claim and who is actually owed, it is where the harm was done specifically. And when we talk about that, we're talking about the descendants of slaves in America that was built in America. And like Tariq said just a moment ago, we can get the check from Africa too, or anybody else that had anything to do with slavery. But when we're talking about America and what is owed in America, it is directly the descendants of slaves in this country. And like my brother Rizza pointed out, it is not just slavery, because we want to make sure that people don't get caught up in that talking point where they just stop with slavery. We're talking about redlining, we're talking about sharecropping, we're talking about mass incarceration, we're talking about Jim Crow, all of the things that happened as a result of slavery that still exists today.
Where do Caribbean Americans fit into that? Because there was slavery all throughout the islands, and they have become, obviously, a huge part of the Black American diaspora. I'm wondering, I mean, they had slavery there. Where do they fit into this, what you guys are talking about?
Well, they have something called CARICOM, where all the Caribbean nations got together and they are fighting the British colonialism and the French. So they have a reparations movement going on over there. We're not included in that, and that's fine. So we have our own reparations movement for foundational Black Americans, and we can't include other people because, again, that muddies the waters. But again, I'm all for them getting reparations from the islands that were colonized by the British and the French.
Define the term foundational Black American for people who might not know what it is.
Okay, foundational Black American, that is a Black American, or what we are known to be called as African American, a person who's Black who's not an immigrant. You don't come from an immigrant background. Foundational Black Americans are the only group who are non-immigrants. You're the people who built the country from scratch. You didn't immigrate from anywhere. You were descendants of slaves who built the country. That's what all the foundational Black American is. It's not an organization. It's not a group. It is a lineage specific to this land.
So I watched an interview with our sister Kamilah last night, and she was asked a very interesting question, and I wonder what the panel thought about this. If we do lineage-based reparations, there could be a chance that somebody white might have had in their family a couple of people who were enslaved. They might be able to make a legal claim that says, hey, so-and-so so many years ago, this person was with this person, I am white, but I have ancestors who were enslaved, who were Black and enslaved here in America. Is there any case where you guys would be able to see that a white person would get reparations in that case?
You have a lot of the Rachel Dolezals out here who are trying to pull that.
That's different.
Okay, they'll try to Rachel Dolezal themselves in the game, but one of the requirements that we're recommending is that if you try to get reparations, you have to be a person that has been classified as Black for the last 10 years or so.
Okay.
All right? So we're not going to do the $5 FBAs like they did with $5 Indians, because a lot of Native Americans that you see now are not real Native Americans. In the early 1900s, they had something called the Dawes Rolls, where white people would pay $5 to get their name on the Indian rolls to get classified as an Indian. So the Indians, if you look at pictures of them before the 1900s, they were looking like us. They were our color. Now they look like Willie Nelson now. So that's not what a Native American looks like, all right? So we got to watch out for the $5 FBAs.
All right, Tez and Kamilah, there has to be a political apparatus into making this happen. There has to be political momentum into making this happen if it's going to come from the government. Tez, I'll start with you. What does that look like? How do we compel American politics, the American government, through political means to repay something that they won't even acknowledge that they owe? How do we do that?
It's real simple. In the words of Biggie Smalls, we won't chase them, we'll replace them. It's just that simple. We cannot continue to beg, we have to boss. We cannot continue to ask the same leadership that has been in control. Amen? We cannot continue to ask the same leadership that has been specifically in charge of the Democrat Party over the last 60 years to continue to give us what we are owed. And yes, Republicans are equally as responsible. Just to be clear, I'm an independent, I am nonpartisan. I do not align with the Democrat or Republican Party. But 90% of black people who actually vote for the Democrat Party. So with that being said, we have to get to a point where now we are putting people in the mix to change the game. We have to build our own bench. Just 2 weeks ago in Atlanta, Georgia, I did a training called Push the Line, Politics Until Something Happens. Over 300 black people, I want to be crystal clear about this, 300 black people showed up for training on time, an hour early on 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and we pushed through 12 hours of content to learn how to be candidates, how to be operatives, to control campaigns, because a lot of the campaigns that you see with black faces, they're controlled by white folks. So it's important that we have candidates who actually align with our agenda, who are not afraid to call out those who need to get called out, including those from their own political party, including black folks. Then we need operatives who actually run those campaigns, who are in charge of the communications, in charge of the field, in charge of all of the things that encompasses in a campaign. And then we need organizers that push issues such as reparations that work hand in hand with the candidates as well as the operatives. So I am over asking them to do right by us. Bottom line, they're not gonna do it. The question is, who is ready to step up and be a candidate that is willing to disrupt and be okay with somebody saying you're gonna split the vote or you're causing problems? We have to get in a place of position of power, because the bottom line is you cannot pass policy if somebody doesn't vote for it. So rather than asking those to continue to align with us, let's put our own candidates in the mix. And if that means you have to run 2, 3, 4, 5 times, keep on running until we make something happen.
Okay, real quick, I wanna come back with one question. I'm gonna come to Kamilah real quick. So I want a definitive, distinct answer from you. Do you think that black people should vote for any candidate who is either non-committal or against reparations? Tez.
Hell no, excuse me. It's Sunday, pardon me. But no, hell no. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not good enough to just be black. We have plenty of candidates, plenty of people who are in charge of leadership that's black. I'm black and vote for me because I'm black. We can look at Daniel Cameron, who was black in Kentucky, that sold out Breonna Taylor and all of the things that came with that case. So black is not enough. And he got voted in based upon him being the first black attorney general. So if we are not looking at exactly what they stand for and running the receipts to be able to show that to show and prove that you are who you say you are, and be okay with questioning that, and then also calling it out. I am done with the behind the scenes calling folks out. Let's be quiet. One of the things that you hear a lot is, well, you know, I have to vote for a Democrat because they're easier to fight, but I don't see nobody fighting. Let me say it one more time. Y'all say they're easier to fight, but I don't see nobody fighting. So we have to get to the point where we're okay with calling people out and putting them on blast to correct themselves. Ice Cube said it best. My brother got his shirt on. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. So if we are not in position to check folks, there will be no running of the check. So we got to check folks on site, make sure we hold them accountable, vote them out, or send somebody to replace them.
Word. Give it up for that. All right, Killer Mike, I know you got to go. So can you just leave us with a last word from you before we?
Yeah, I knew I wasn't going to have to talk much, and I'm happy I don't. I'd just like to say that there are a lot of buses going to Freedom Land, and it don't really matter which one you on or who you agree with or doesn't. There are people that are not on this panel that have issues with people on this panel. I wore this shirt because some girl said they should have had Ice Cube here instead of me, God bless her soul. So I brought Ice Cube. I'm a disciple of the Church of Ice Cube. But I've invoked the name of some people who weren't here. I'd like to invoke the name of Cobra. I'd like to invoke the name of Dr. Claude Anderson and just say, once you leave here, get with 10 people at your church, at your mosque, in your houses of worship, or just that you organize with, and on a very local level, take your ass to the conferences that Tez is throwing on, watch what's going on in California, because if it happens in that state, listen to the other panelists that we have in reference to whether it's seeing a documentary or listening to these brothers on a daily basis. But get with 10 people and do something, push the line. because it's going to happen, but it's only going to happen if we agree to fight less publicly and cooperate and collaborate and strategize behind closed doors. George Jackson compelled us, before he was murdered escaping a prison, compelled us to get secret and quiet about the shit we do. And I love this because this galvanizes us, but them white folks don't need to know everything we talking about. The United States government does not need to know every move you're gonna make, and you should be making moves on a local level. You should be vetting prosecutors, vetting judges, vetting candidates. And the first question, we got people running for all type of offices in Georgia right now. What's your stance on reparations? Georgia's 35% black. We got a lot of farmland. They're gonna bring marijuana and everything to casinos here. I wanna leave you with what Robert Smith says. And he was the guy that paid for all those Morehouse kids tuition a few years ago, and we loved him. And right after he did that, the IRS investigated. We should have been standing with him in a stronger way, but I'll give you this. He said American corporations should be giving 2% of their profits to the African-American community. And that's something I had never heard. I've read Frederick Douglass' stance on reparations. I know Dr. King was pro-reparations. I know the people on this panel are not. But I've never heard a capitalist. Mind you, I'm not talking about somebody asking for corporate welfare. I'm not somebody saying, can you 501c3? This man is in the business of making money. And he said that the private corporations make so much money that he had a 2% plan. I just want to invoke us to go down all the buses that are on the way to Freedom Land. Find a bus that you like and get your ass on it. That's it. Find a group of people that you can organize with and organize locally. And lastly, black folks, you deserve something for your marriage to that piss poor party you married to. You deserve economics. You deserve a political voice. You deserve leadership roles. And the black working class, it shouldn't just be us college niggas talking for you. You should be talking and running for office and winning. I love you. When y'all get y'all check, I'll come to y'all house for dinner because I'm broke.
All right. That's Michael Render, everybody. All right, Kamilah, I want to talk to you because you are on the chair of the California reparations panel. What goes on there? What are the conversations that are being had? I feel so far away from y'all now, man. Michael was bridging me to my people. I might move down. But what happens on that panel? What do you guys do? What is the, no, it's all gravy. It's all gravy. What's the process that you guys are actually going through to make this happen in California?
Yeah, so just to provide some context, the California Reparations Task Force is based on a piece of legislation called AB 3121, which was championed by grassroots reparationists in California, working alongside elected officials who were also pro-reparations, namely Shirley Weber, who is now California's first African-American Secretary of State. And so AB 3121 was signed into law by California Governor Gavin Newsom in October 2020. It took about 9 months or so to get all the task force members recruited, and we had our first meeting June of last year. So the California Reparations Task Force, it's a 2-year effort. The first year was dedicated to the study phase, where we invited people to provide expert and personal testimony on a variety of topics, essentially around the atrocities against the African American community, starting with the transatlantic slave trade to the institution of slavery and the harms or atrocities that bore out of enslavement, like Jim Crow, racial terror, political disenfranchisement. The list goes on and on and on. And in the second and final phase we're calling the development stage, where as a 9-member task force, we're actually coming up with what the forms of reparations will look like, and that will be memorialized in our final report that will be released June of next year. I'll also like to add that we have an interim report that we released June of this year that memorialized what we've studied. So it's a 13-chapter, 500-page report that catalogs the atrocities against the African American community, not only within the state of California, but on a federal level as well. And that report is available free online if you go to our website at oag.ca.gov /AB 3121. And again, it's 13 chapters, and in each chapter, it not only catalogs the harms against the African American community in California, but on the federal level as well. So no matter where you are in the United States, that report that we released June 1 is relevant to you. And you can use that report as an organizing tool to get your legislators engaged and involved in reparative justice initiatives where you are, in your city, in your state.
Oh, wow, amazing. We're gonna have some questions in a second, but before we do, I wanna actually piggyback on something that Mike was saying. Mike was talking about find your bus to freedom, which is a very powerful idea, right? Like find the bus that's going to freedom, the one that you like, and get on it. I find personally, as someone who works to amplify voices, but is sort of outside of the actual the grassroots stuff, that a lot of times those buses are racing. And it's sometimes hard for us to get on code in conversations where we desperately need to be on code because some people want credit, some people want their ideas at the forefront. As a community, it's a serious question to everyone, strong voices, all of you guys, unique voices. How do we stop maybe some of the bickering that goes on between us when it comes to this issue and put the good of Black America before anybody's personal movement, anybody's personal, political stance, anybody's personal, media presence? Like, what do we need to do to better work together on getting the money that we're owed? Anyone can take it.
Well, one thing, the reason why we have the FBA movement going so strong is because we needed to delineate to determine who's owed reparations and who's a foundational Black American. Because what would happen is when we talk about reparations, you'll have people who look like us, but they come from an immigrant background and they're already getting benefits as an immigrant. So us talking about getting something, they look at that as, well, he's gonna take money out of my immigrant pocket if we give money to the FBAs, so they'll get around us and try to sabotage and get off code. So it was important for us to delineate in a respectful way to say, hey, you're not owed, we are, and we have to focus on what we're doing. So that's one thing, not letting outside groups come in and infiltrate because they have some kind of personal vendetta because they're not even owed reparations here.
I'm gonna push you gently here. When you say outside groups, some people would say that sounds divisive. I mean, we're all Black. I understand what you're talking about in terms of who's owed the money and who's not owed the money, but do you think that we should be maybe possibly, and I've talked to you a lot before, brother, maybe a little bit more, inclusive in the way that we have these discussions so there's not them versus us?
Listen, they had the Emmy Awards like last week. Anytime a non-FBA person won an award, they're like, Jamaican American actress Cheryl Lee Ralph won an award. The minute a person who's of Nigerian descent becomes a PhD doctor, Nigerian American PhD doctor. Anytime they do something positive and constructive, they go out of their way to delineate from us, which is cool. Take your win. When we want to do something positive for our group, we're told we're being divisive if we're talking about reparations specifically for us. So they have to respect us the way we respect them.
Right, okay.
I'd like to add on to that. Everyone does not include us in their party. Everyone does not include us in everything that they do. There has to be a point of division in order for us to separate and then unite among the like-minded of our people. So let's make this very clear. When we say we want to call people out, let's make this all the way clear. Everyone knows who is real and who is not. Because there are some of us who are banned from every damn where because of how absolutely legitimate we are. So when you want to call people out, first they must be pointed out. We cannot unite with slave makers, slave owners, traitors, turncoats, nor collaborators. It ain't gonna happen like that. Too many of us are Black people with white minds. And so when you put people in front who say they speak for us, but at this point it is 2022 going into 2023, and we are still in the same position, if not a little backward from where we were when it comes to our overall progress, I call conspiracy. Now, before anyone says conspiracy theory, conspiracy means when two or more groups, organizations, or individuals come together to do something that is evil and or wicked. It is an absolute conspiracy. You have too many Black billionaires and millionaires who do not fund projects for Black grassroots organizations to come up out of the condition that we are in. Too many people chasing the bag, but you don't get no damn respect because you sacrifice your people to be included into somebody else's group.
That's right.
So, let's stop the nonsense. Cut the cap.
Yeah.
In the game. This generation ain't playing with this no more. I want us to all understand this. There is a separation here. The commercialized talking, everyone wants to be soft and talk soft. The enemy doesn't give a damn about nothing you call yourself. You can call yourself a Moor, Hebrew Israelite, you can say black, you can say FBA, all of that. We are considered to them.
That's right.
That is the very plain, simple reality. If you are a black millionaire but you can't speak the truth, you are nothing but a rich slave.
That's right.
And I will never trade my place with someone who has a lot of money but no respect for my own people.
That's right.
Too many of us get comfortable once we get a check and we forget where we came from.
That's right.
And you don't want to even go back around your people because you feel like we're not even worth being around.
That's right.
So at this point, again, this is a nice stage, a wonderful event, but knock it off. Those who are really about this, be about it. So that the enemy can say, you know what, we need to stop playing with these people and give them their real respect.
That's right. Van, I'd like to add
Sure.
I'd like to piggyback quickly on that. One of the training sessions that we taught at the Push the Line training was, it's all about we, but it falls on me. And that was about being okay with separating yourself from the BS. No other community, a group that goes into our communities and owns beauty shops and nail salons and convenience stores, they never sit around and say, let's all get together and have one big convenience store. Why we can't be together? We spend so much time talking about being together instead of being okay with standing alone solo dolo if need be. They own shop after shop after shop after shop. And then you look at it and the whole community has been monopolized by one particular group. We are the only ones that sit around and beg people to get on the same page because they too pussified, excuse my French, to stand firm for black people. So I'm okay with being by myself. If it's me and 10 other people that's pushing the line, remember Gideon's army only had 300. We don't need 10,000. We need 300 riders that's ready to push the line all the way, call out what needs to be called out, including even folks that we like, and continue to push the line. We cannot continue to soft shoe around this topic. It is not, I would say that it's the opposite. When somebody says you're being divisive, I would say, no, it's actually you that's being divisive because you're trying to put us all together to calm down the voices that are loud enough to call out folks that need to be called out. I get it. It makes some people uncomfortable. But at the end of the day, somebody got to do it. So when people tell me, well, you ride with this person or ride with that person, my response always to them is, well, he got to call them out because you damn sure not. We got enough people on the other side that are making excuses for those that are abusing us. We need more people on this side that's willing to lose the bag, lose the contract, miss the opportunity for the show, miss the opportunity to be elevated on high platforms when we are continually living low in our communities.
I just want to add one thing. I think we also need to be honest. Most of the change makers in our community are from the entertainment space, and I think that's why we're all here, because we're interested in the intersection of arts, entertainment, and social justice. So we need more athletes involved. We need more musicians involved. We need those people involved in this space. Some athletic organizations, professional athletic organizations, have reached out to me preliminary, wanting to get involved in the California Reparations Task Force, but we need more. So to answer your question in terms of how we can work together, we need to connect the dots, work alongside who's in our network in the entertainment space, and push the conversation forward.
Now, it would be nice if we did have entertainers and athletes. Unfortunately, they are held to the plantation tighter than most of us.
Yeah.
We really need the grassroots doing it, because when we had an athlete, our good brother Colin Kaepernick, stand up for black issues, we see what they did to our brother, and they're still blackballing our brother. When you're dealing with the white supremacist corporate structure, you kind of have to play ball with them. What we need we need all of you on the grassroots to really push the line and keep the politicians in order to say, hey, we're not going to vote for you. We're not going to vote blue no matter who, just because you're dangling some butter biscuits at us. We need you to bring tangibles to the table, because we as black people, we deserve something. You're giving something to all of these other groups, and you're not giving it to us. You don't have to vote blue no matter who. If Herschel Walker offered a check, I would vote for Herschel Walker. I would have to spell reparations for him, but I would vote for Herschel Walker. Right?
And let me say this, no other community, and respectfully, I appreciate what you're saying, no other community tells their rappers and activists and actors to speak on our issues. No, we need scholars, we need organizers, we need people that actually know what the hell they talking about. My brother Killer Mike gets it because he says he uses his big platform to mobilize. He has a big platform in the entertainment space. So yes, we need entertainers and actors as allies, but you need to pass the mic to those that actually know what the hell they talking about. Because a lot of these actors, entertainers, song and dancers, I need you to be songing and dancing, and then I need you to pass the mic on over to somebody that actually is on the ground organizing. So no, I reject the fact that we need more of them. We need more of you, and we need them to be okay with passing the mic to somebody that's grassroots, that's actually working in the community. Last night I did a Twitter space for 11 hours and 25 minutes.
Damn.
11 hours and 25 minutes. I wasn't here chasing behind Ray J. No disrespect to our brother Ray J. or Dennis Rodman or any of the celebrities that was here. I was with the grassroots for 11 hours and 25 minutes sorting out these issues on how conservatives and liberals, where we align and where we differ. That's what's important to me. Shout out to the Push the Line family in the audience. That's what's important to me. Not sitting up here chasing behind no celebrity because they get it twisted and they sell it.
I gotta speak up for the actors.
Speak up for the actors.
I gotta speak up for the actors.
I want to get Erika in here. Because y'all, she catching some strays up here.
I have got to speak up for the actors and the entertainers, and I take your point. You're absolutely right. The problem with that is that many of them are not educated.
Right.
They're not. They get the mic and they fumble it, the ball or whatever, and they should be passing it on. And most of the time, I think they do. I think often, I was called to a meeting with the Hollywood Bureau of the NAACP, and they asked how could they support more performers and people who are in the business. And I said, well, it would be a surprise if you told them that you did. Often we're brought in as props, right next to somebody who's gotten murdered in the community, but no one's ever asked them, how are they doing? What type of financial sort of help or education do they need? So you have people like Prince and Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston and these people dying all the time, and we act like they're disposable, like, oh, we're sad. Are you kidding? These are some of the crowning achievements of world history, and they have voices that translate across the globe, whether we like it or not. We just need to educate them and put them in a position that if they ever are past the mic, they're able to say something that's deliberate or intentional and can move progress, and certainly give the mic over to someone who does know what they're talking about. Having said that, I spent a lot of time with Reverend Barber. Reverend Barber talks about this being the third Reconstruction. He says that we need fusion politics, because as much as we would like to do this alone, we just can't. 13% of America's population cannot do this alone if we're going to do it inside of a legislation sort of agenda and that type of a thing. We need abolitionists, white people who are willing, as you say, to give up that space and say, I'm willing to die on this hill with you. And we need people who understand in the black and brown that right now it's going to be a coalition and there's a social contract between each other that we have to start to really push forward. And we saw how bad it was when we tried to get people to wear masks. They wouldn't do it. Now, we can't get people to wear masks. How are we going to get them to do reparations? And so we really do have to think about this as a storytelling narrative. I'm in the business of storytelling. I testified on there to say until we start to change the narrative and tell a better story, we'll have culture. And part of what we're dealing with is that we need to rebrand blackness. We need to rebrand it. We need to grab it back in whatever form. So I'm with you on all of the things that you said, but we need everybody in that fight.
Yeah,
the reason why I said that, and that's why I led by saying we need to be honest, because Malcolm X said we're the only people in the black community, we're the only people who look to our entertainers to lead us. That is a critique of the black community. But at the same time, we need to be realistic that unfortunately, black folks in our community, we look to entertainers for our next move. And so that's why we need to use them as allies. Use them as allies to transform our culture so that we no longer look to them as our leaders and we look to people in the grassroots
real quick.
as the leader.
Hey, real quick.
Because I've shown up got a response on that.
Y'all can come do it on my podcast. I can't wait. But we have to pass the mic. Speaking of pass the mic, we're going to pass the mic to Rochelle Ritchie, who's in the crowd. Rochelle, I see you. Hey, how you doing? Out there, she has some special guests. She's holding it down for us with some people out there that have some questions, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Very spirited conversation. The panel's doing an amazing job. I'm Rochelle Ritchie, guest host for Revolt Black News Weekly. Airs Thursdays, 9 p.m. Make sure you tune in every single Thursday. We're talking about the same stuff they're talking here, Black perspective, Black issues with Black people. But we have some people in the crowd that obviously have questions, right? So I'm going to start with Tatiana. Stand up, beautiful. All right. So Tatiana, tell us your first and last name and where you go to school.
Hi everyone, my name is Tatiana Itana Horban. I'm a recent graduate of the illustrious Spelman College.
Okay, Spelman, where y'all at? Okay, you have a question for the panel.
Yes, I do. My question is for individuals my age that may not have been so immersed in their roots, why is it important for us to understand reparations and why is it something that can really help us? How can reparations help us and is it something that will affect us positively or negatively? Thank you.
Anybody?
I'll say the first thing, number one, when it comes to the relationship that we've had with America, it is similar to a wife who has been getting beat by her husband and she refuses to leave. May have gone over some of your heads for a quick second, but let me just marinate on this. You have to be connected to your roots because you quite literally are the physical manifestation of the DNA that goes all the way down to your lineage. If you are not connected to your past, you will not be respected in your present and you will not know what to do in the future. Every other group of people knows what has happened so that they know it should never be repeated again. And they make it clear to everyone around them that it will never be repeated again. So that's why they educate themselves. That's why they make sure they know about the financial structure. They know about the religious side of things or the spiritual systems. They know about the educational field, etc., so that they can build upon what their ancestors constructed. If we do not know what they went through, if we do not know what they deserve better and what we deserve now, then we will never be respected as a people. I'm saying this from this generation. We have become too damn weak, and we don't know much about our history. And we're very happy about this at this point. But I want us all to understand this. As you continue to grow older and you want to gain more respect in this society and in the society across the planet, no one respects the people who do not embrace their own history. And we are laughed at across the planet because of that. So make sure you connect because of that reason, if no other reason at all.
All right, thank you, Brother Rizza, for that. All right, so we have a second question. Come on, stand up, love. What's your name?
Hi, everyone. My name is Devin Bell. I'm a junior business management major at Morehouse College. And my question is...
Hold on. Morehouse?
My question is, how do I encourage other Gen Zers, and what's the action plan for mobilizing each other and my peers to actually see reparations come to fruition in the recent...
Young brother wants to know what he can do with him and his peer group to actually help out. Anybody?
Get with 5 like-minded people from the college, Morehouse, 5 like-minded people from your college. Figure out what areas you are all involved in, what key areas you're studying in. Go to the highest people in those areas so that you can get the information from them, bring it back, and build from where you are. If you have social media, make sure you collaborate on your social media. Figure out what local organization is pushing for reparations. Go and help them, help to push the information out, help to get more people involved. The main thing we have to do is collectively connect with one another far more. Communicate with each other, connect with one another more, and make sure you're not afraid, brother, to do this.
Right.
Because they will try to stop you. A lot of the colleges and universities make us very weak. I'm saying this on purpose. Morehouse is a very good one. Please make sure you stay strong, connect with the people, and build from there.
Tez, I was just about to come to you. Yeah, go ahead, sis.
And just for again, what Brother Rizza says, like-minded people. You have got, when you say encourage, that translates a lot of time to begging. You have to be okay with moving forward. Moses, since it's Sunday, I'm gonna take you there. Moses never got to the promised land because he spent time talking to slaves that even though they were free, they still refused to be slaves. He kept continually bringing down the manna, kept continually showing them the water. They refused, and Moses never made it to the promised land because he spent time talking to dead folk for 40 years. The new generation, Joshua, was moving on over to the promised land. See, one thing about it, I'm not Harriet Tubman. I'm not coming back to get none of y'all. I'm gonna honk the horn one time. You either gonna come one time or we moving on over. We have to get with the urgency of understanding that everybody ain't gonna go. And your work that you do will still benefit them, but you can't get caught up in having conversations with people that are comfortable not being uncomfortable. You have to be okay with saying, I'm gonna get 5 people and we're gonna take it and we're gonna roll. And so back to, because I had to piggyback on that on entertainers, on what it means to educate. Our sister Erika does a reparations podcast year-round. So you spend time educating. A lot of these entertainers, they ain't educating year-round. A perfect example of what it should look like with celebrities, Killer Mike and 2 Chainz went and spoke to the council a couple of weeks ago. 2 Chainz got on the mic and said, 2 Chainz, and passed it on over to Killer Mike, who's been organizing. He did.
Come on, man.
He deferred his time. He deferred his time to Killer Mike, AKA Michael Render, that's been organizing since 15 years old. You can't educate nobody on this in 15 minutes. Yeah. This has to come down to the organizers that actually know what the hell they talking about. Even on this panel, I told you, Van, some questions I'm gonna defer to Rizza and Tariq when it comes to history. I don't have to answer every question, but when it comes to organizing and politics, that's where I'm gonna speak up and raise my hand. So yes, we want more people who understand Erika like you do, using your platform to mobilize folks, but a lot of these celebrities and entertainers are looking for yet another gig. They looking for yet another opportunity to be seen. They looking for yet another opportunity to get a contract. We need people like you to get 5 people, and it is realistic, sister, to me. It is realistic. The devil is alive. 300 people showed up last week on time at 7 a.m. in Atlanta. The NAACP, the CBC couldn't get but 100 people at best in the room. And that's just telling it like it is. They showed up. So no, it's realistic. We just don't engage and organize. That's just the bottom line. People want to be with like-minded people. They follow warriors up the hill. Nobody's gonna follow no weak leader. So a lot of these organizations, much due respect to all the organizations, we pay homage to the organizations that we are riding on those shoulders. But like Brother Rizza says and Tariq all today, it is time to go ahead and be divisive and separate those who are really for us. So you get 5 brothers and then you text, push the line, all one word, to 66866. And I'll be back the second week in Atlanta, and we're doing a training part 2.
Oh, give it up for Tez. Give it up for Tez. I'll follow anyway. There's also one last thing I want to say to you, and to all of to the youth, is don't look at this situation don't look at this issue as an issue that you can either be for or against. This isn't that. This is yours. This is a birthright. This is something that people died, were tortured. They built a country. You ever been somewhere, you ever loaned somebody some money, they haven't paid you your money back, and then you see them on vacation? That's the way you should feel every time America sends money abroad, every time America does anything, because that money is yours. So what I'm saying is, this isn't an issue to where like you can be in or out. This is the legacy of your ancestors, the reason why you're here. All right.
Can I just quickly make an ask? You talk about Generation X. We're actually doing a reparations debate, like in the form of Buckley Baldwin, that they did at Cambridge. We're going to be going across the HBCUs. We're starting at Bennett College in North Carolina, so all-female black women's college. They're going to do the rules of engagement, get the guidebook together, and then we're going to hit it with the NC10 there, the HBCUs. Reverend Barber's going to be one of the debate coaches, Joy Reid, that type, Robert Ruth Simmons. But we need help. If you think that we can come to your university and run a debate, and we want to use that analysis and data to give it to Congress to see what we learn and really make it a youth movement. So that's what you can do. Please get in contact at colorfarmmedia.com. And we'd love for you to be a part of it in your university or your college or your group. Thank you.
All right, next question, Rochelle.
Yeah, I love everything that was being said. So we got some people in the audience that also are coming up to me with questions. So I'm going to try to get to these 3 gentlemen behind me. But right now, Vivian, why don't you stand up for me, love, and tell me where you go to school and ask your question to the panel.
Hello, my name is Vivian Taylor. I currently go to Kennesaw State University. I am a junior and I major in emerging media and journalism.
Yes, journalism majors. You know I love that. Okay.
My question for the panelists today is, has there been research done on the wealth gap actually being closed with these said reparations? If so, what do those statistics look like?
Anybody got that one? The question is, she's asking is, and correct me if I'm wrong, young sister. The question she's asking is, this, obviously we know that there's a wealth gap between white Americans and black Americans. Has there been any research done to see whether or not reparations would take a chunk out of that, would close the wealth gap? I think that is a fantastic question. Like, Kamilah, do we know that at all?
Yes, so the California Reparations Task Force, we actually hired 5 economists to help us crunch the numbers for what reparations in the form of compensation might look like. In California, we had our 2-day hearing just yesterday and the day before. in Los Angeles, where the economists described, again, what compensation might look like for state-sanctioned atrocities against the African American community. You can look at our past hearings. For instance, the economist said yesterday, if you were a victim of the war on drugs in California, you could be owed by the state of California upwards to over $100,000 for each year that you were unjustly incarcerated. You could be owed, for instance, if you were a victim of housing discrimination or redlining, up to $200,000 if you were a victim between 1933 and 1977. So I'm just imputing these facts and these data to make it real to you all. This is real. This is happening in California as we speak. But I want to bring that up to state, right, that California does not have enough money in its yearly budget to close the racial wealth gap. Only the federal government can close the racial wealth gap. And at its current rate, it would take over 200 years to close the racial wealth gap between Black Americans and white Americans. And that is why reparations on a federal level is such a necessity. So it's not enough for the state of California to atone for its own atrocities. We need a federal or national movement to ensure that that racial wealth gap is closed. And to answer the previous question, yes, you can create your own organizations, but you can also research, because there are existing organizations right now that are doing the work to push for reparations on a federal level. In fact, on September 30th and October 1st in Atlanta, there's an organization called the National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants, who will be hosting their inaugural summit at the National Center for Civil and Human Rights. California Secretary of State Shirley Weber will be a keynote. Right. I'll be a panelist. I think Bernice King will also be in attendance. Fantastic. That is a ripe opportunity for you all to get engaged and get politically active in the national fight for reparations.
Right. Rochelle, you got the last question.
All right, so like I said, we had a couple of people come up to me wanting to ask questions. So, sir, you came up to me. Go ahead and ask your questions to the panel and introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Day, executive songwriter, got a lot of placement, but that don't matter. I have a question for the young lady about the entertainers. I got two things. First thing is, you know, we talk about white people and all that, right? But these are the same white people that gave us our doctrines to God. So when you talk about Moses, we don't know if Moses made it to the promised land or not. That's the first thing. Second thing is how, I'm not gonna say that you hate them, but the passion and the energy towards, like, the entertainers don't know nothing, but it's an entertainer who put this on today, which is Puff. Puff made this happen. He's an entertainer, and he's giving platforms. So I feel instead of you, to me, your energy is like, oh, they don't know nothing, divide. No, teach them. Instead of like, because they have the platform, whether you like it or not, because the young generation look to them. So instead of you making a big deal out of it, like, oh, the entertainers know, you grab them and you teach them.
I got you, brother. Let me hold up. Let me clear. Now see, this is when receipts matter. The brother that put this down, Diddy, I consult him, homie. I'm his consultant. Yeah. The brothers that do, no, we got to go there. Second, when we talk about who got talent, I can freestyle battle you right now on this stage.
Get him, Tez.
Ain't nobody
Get
mad.
him, Tez.
Ain't nobody mad
What a DJ
about
is.
no entertainers. So let me be, I want to make sure you understand exactly who you're talking to. Ain't nobody mad at no entertainers. Killer Mike is my brother. When he deal with politics, he called me. Hold on, Puff is my brother. When he deal with politics, he called me.
Wait a minute.
So let's be clear. Ain't nobody mad. Ain't nobody mad. No, let this happen. Ain't nobody mad at no entertainers. I work with the entertainers. What I'm saying is we work together. We work together to educate each other. And see, the problem right now is you're being an example of the problem with entertainers. Because instead of you listening, instead of you allowing me to school you and teach you, you busy talking and performing. See, I don't do performing. I do receipts. So the person that put this together, Diddy, absolutely endorses me. And him and I talk about politics all the time, baby, with our black party, actually putting on the work. So see, you gotta be willing to listen and learn. I'm not taking nothing away from an entertainer. Erika and I, we on the same network, baby, the Black Effect Podcast Network.
Shout out to
I work
Charlene.
with entertainers. Now the question is, can you work with me?
Give it up for our panel today, y'all. Everybody, give it up for our panel. Rizza Islam, Tezlyn Figaro, Tariq Nasheed, Erika Alexander. Give it up for our panel.
Pardon me.
All right. You guys.
Hold on.
Wait,
Can I say
Tez,
this?
Tez.
I'm also,
Stall them out, Tez.
I gotta say
Stall
this.
them out.
I'm also a military veteran, so excuse my aggression. I'm an M60 gunner from the United States Air Force, baby. So I just come hard like that. That's all. That's all. You gotta deal with the aggression. I'm both sides.
All right, you
LA
guys.
in the building.
You've heard the perspectives. Hopefully you have a toolkit to get active. Let's get together, get this money. Thank you guys for having us. That is it.